The lights from the Christmas tree flicker softly, casting a warm glow across the room, but inside, there's a storm brewing. The fire crackles in the hearth, and the aroma of cinnamon and roasted turkey fills the air. Everything looks perfect. But for me, the picture of happiness that I'm supposed to be a part of doesn't feel like reality. It's a mask. I stand there in front of the tree, carefully placing the final ornament on its branches, a smile on my face. But inside, there's a storm. My name is Hannah Green, and I am 38-year-old married to Jason with 2 kids. Before I continue with my story, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and comment the city you are watching this video from in the world. This is my story. It's been over 15 years since Jason and I first met. I was 23, full of hopes and dreams, and he was the charming, easygoing guy everyone loved. We built a life together in Charlotte, North Carolina, 2 kids, a home we're proud of, a beautiful family on the outside. The kind of family people envy. But that's not the real story. The real story began about a year ago. That's when I found out. I'd been suspicious for a while, but I never wanted to admit it. It's not like I was looking for something to break my heart, but when I found that text, the one that Jason had left open on his phone, everything changed. "I miss you, baby. Can't wait to see you tonight." The message was from Amber, a woman from his office, someone he'd been seeing behind my back for months. I remember the day I saw it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the living room with the kids, their laughter filling the house as I went through our family photos. But there, in his messages, was the truth I had been avoiding for so long. The moment I read that text, my heart stopped. It felt like a punch to the gut. The betrayal hit me like a freight train, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was choking on my own anger and pain. I didn't confront him right away. I wasn't ready. I needed to think to process it all. I had to figure out what I was going to do, because I knew that once I confronted him, everything would change. Jason, the man I had loved, the father of my children, had lied to me. He'd broken our vows, and worse, he had done it with someone who was everything I wasn't, young, ambitious, and beautiful. And I'd been so blind to it. For days, I thought about confronting him, about laying it all out on the table. But then it hit me. I wasn't going to beg him to stay. I wasn't going to cry and plead for his love. He needed to feel the weight of what he'd done. He needed to understand what it felt like to be betrayed. I wasn't going to play the victim. I was going to make him regret everything. It wasn't going to be fast. It wasn't going to be obvious. No, I would make him think everything was normal. I would play the part of the perfect wife until the very last moment. And then, when he least expected it, I would strike. I had everything planned out. This Christmas would be the beginning of his downfall. He wouldn't see it coming. He would think I had forgiven him, that everything was fine. But Christmas morning wasn't going to bring him joy. It was going to bring him his worst nightmare. The days leading up to Christmas felt like a countdown. On the outside, everything was normal. Jason was in full holiday mode, helping with the decorations, planning the family dinner, and buying gifts. He had no idea what was going on in my head. I didn't want the kids to suffer. Emily and Jacob were excited, talking about Santa and all the presents under the tree. I couldn't ruin that for them, so I kept the act going. But every time Jason smiled, every time he tried to make small talk with me, I couldn't help but think about the betrayal. The smile he wore so easily now, the one I had once loved so much, felt like a lie. Jason had no idea how much pain he had caused me. He didn't realize how deep the wound was, how it had cut me to my core. He thought he could just apologize and I'd forgive him like I always had before. But this time, it was different. Christmas Eve arrived and the house was buzzing with excitement. The kids were getting ready for bed, eager for the morning to come. Jason was in the kitchen, preparing the last-minute touches for dinner, the smell of turkey filling the house. It was a beautiful scene, too beautiful, the perfect picture of a family, ready for a holiday of joy and celebration. But behind the cheerful atmosphere, I was standing on the edge of something darker. I stood by the tree, staring at the ornaments that I had placed carefully on the branches. The twinkling lights cast shadows across the room. This was my moment, my chance to make everything right. Not for Jason, but for me. As the kids ran around in excitement, Jason came up behind me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Everything looks great, huh? It's going to be a perfect Christmas." I smiled up at him, my eyes meeting his for a brief moment. But it wasn't a smile that conveyed warmth. It was the smile of someone who had already made up her mind, who had already accepted the reality of what needed to be done. "It will be," I said, my voice steady, controlled. But inside, everything was about to explode. I walked into the kitchen, where Jason was arranging the table for dinner. The kids were watching TV in the other room, and the moment felt almost too perfect, too easy. Jason smiled at me, holding up a platter of mashed potatoes. "You sure you don't need any help?" he asked, his voice warm. I paused, looking at him, wondering how someone could be so calm when everything he'd built was about to come crashing down. "No," I said softly. "You've done enough." He looked at me, confused for a moment, before shrugging and going back to his preparations. The smile on his face faded slightly, but he didn't think much of it. I stood there for a moment, watching him. He looked like the man I had married, the man I had trusted, and for a split second I almost wanted to call it off. Almost, but I couldn't, not after everything. I couldn't forget the way he'd looked at me when I found out about Amber. The lies, the excuses, the way he tried to make it seem like it was my fault for not noticing sooner. He had never taken responsibility for what he did, never truly apologized. But tonight, all of that was about to change. I turned away from him, walking back to the living room where the Christmas tree stood. I took a deep breath, calming my nerves. I couldn't let him see the storm inside. Not yet. Tomorrow was Christmas Day, the day I had planned for him, the day that would change everything. Jason had no idea what was coming. He thought this Christmas was going to be just like the others. But it was, not anymore. Tomorrow, everything would be different. Tomorrow, he would know exactly how it felt to lose everything. I had always trusted Jason. We had built a life together, our children, our home in Charlotte, the memories we created as a family. Everything about us screamed perfection. At least, that's what I thought. The perfect husband, the perfect father, the perfect life. But it was all a lie. I remember the first time I ever suspected something was off. It was subtle at first. Jason's late nights at work, the unexplained phone calls, the way his phone was always face down when he put it on the table. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just the stress of life, balancing work and family. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. And then, one day, I found the text. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Miss you so much." The message was from Amber, a younger woman Jason worked with. Her name wasn't unfamiliar to me. I had seen her name pop up in casual conversations, nothing that raised alarm but that text. Oh, that text was all the confirmation I needed. It hit me like a slap to the face. My heart dropped, my hands trembled as I stared at the screen, unable to believe what I was reading. I don't even remember what happened in the moments after that. I think I just stood there, numb, staring at the message, feeling like my entire world was crumbling around me. The truth was staring back at me, and I didn't know what to do. I was shocked, hurt, but mostly I was furious. Furious at Jason for betraying me, furious at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I had always thought we were solid. I had always trusted him. But now all I could see was the person I had married, the man I had given my heart to, standing in front of me as a stranger. A man who had lied to me for who knows how long. I didn't confront him right away. No, I had to gather my thoughts. I needed time to process everything before I did something I couldn't take back. But the anger started building. It simmered inside of me, a quiet storm that only I could feel. And that's when I realized I wasn't going to beg him to stay. I wasn't going to cry and plead for forgiveness. No, I was going to make him feel what I felt. The next few days were a blur. Jason acted like everything was normal. He continued to go to work, came home every evening, kissed me goodnight like nothing had changed. But inside, I was seething. Every time I looked at him, I saw the man who had betrayed me. I saw the man who had promised to love me forever, who had sworn he would never hurt me. But he did. And now I was going to make him pay. Christmas was approaching. The kids were getting excited, asking about presents, talking about Santa Claus. Jason was in full holiday mode, planning family activities and holiday dinners. He didn't suspect a thing, and I let him think everything was fine. But I wasn't going to let him get away with this. I wasn't going to sit back and let him think that everything could just go back to normal. This Christmas was going to be different. I started planning. It wasn't just about confronting him. No, it was about making him feel every ounce of the pain he had caused me. I was going to take him down, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. And I would do it all without him ever knowing what was coming. As Christmas Eve drew nearer, the tension in the house was palpable. I kept the act up, pretending everything was okay. I helped with the decorations, baked cookies with the kids, and even smiled at Jason when he complimented my cooking. But all I could think about was the plan. The plan to make him see what it felt like to lose everything, to feel the way I had felt when I found out about Amber. Jason was so comfortable, so confident that everything was fine. He had no idea that the very woman he thought he could walk all over was the one who would bring him to his knees. The night before Christmas Eve, I decided it was time to confront him. I had waited long enough. I needed him to know that this wasn't just about an affair. This was about the lies, the secrets, and the years of emotional betrayal. This was about taking back my power. I waited for the kids to go to bed. Jason was in the living room, watching some football game. He didn't notice the way I moved, the way I carefully set everything into place. I had already arranged everything for the next day, making sure the dinner was ready, the decorations perfect. I wanted everything to look as normal as possible, until it was. I walked into the living room, where Jason was lounging on the couch. I stood there for a moment, watching him, wondering how he could sit there so comfortably while I was about to rip his world apart. He looked up and smiled, that same smile that used to make my heart race. "Hey, how's everything going? Are you ready for tomorrow?" he asked, his voice filled with excitement. I smiled back, my heart pounding in my chest. "Oh, I'm ready," I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. "I'm ready for everything to change." He looked at me with a quizzical expression, like he didn't quite understand what I meant, but he would soon. I walked over to him and sat down beside him on the couch. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head, but now, sitting next to him, I realized just how much control I had gained. I was in charge now, not him. "Jason," I started, my voice steady, "do you really think I didn't know? Do you really think I didn't see the signs?" His face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. I leaned in closer, my gaze never leaving his. "I know about Amber. I know everything. The late nights, the texts, the lies. I've been living in a house full of lies, and you've been the one telling them." His expression faltered. For a moment, I saw panic flicker across his face, but he quickly masked it with a fake smile. "Hannah, please, it wasn't like that. You have to believe me. I made a mistake." I felt my anger rise, but I kept my voice steady. "A mistake? You think that's all it was? A mistake? Jason, you've been sleeping with her for months, lying to me, making me think everything was fine. And now you want to call it a mistake." His face was flushed now, but I didn't care. He had already destroyed everything I thought I knew about our marriage. "You think I'm just going to forgive you because you say sorry? Because you think I don't know what you've been up to? Well, Jason, you're wrong. I'm done with your lies. You've hurt me in ways you can't even understand. But this Christmas, you're going to see what it feels like to lose everything." He stood up quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. "What are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you want from me?" I stood up too, stepping closer to him. "I want you to feel the same way I feel. I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything. To lose the family you thought you could take for granted. To lose the love you thought would always be there." Jason backed away, his face now full of panic. "Please, don't do this. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Just give me a chance to fix it." I shook my head. "It's too late for apologies. You had your chance, Jason, and now you're going to get exactly what you deserve." I walked away, leaving him standing there, speechless, unsure of what to do next. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. "Merry Christmas, Jason," I said with a cold smile. "Hope you enjoy your gift." The morning after the confrontation was strangely quiet. Jason was on edge, walking around the house like a man who had lost his footing, but he didn't know how to fix it. I could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. But that's exactly how I wanted it. I needed him to feel unsettled, uncomfortable in his own skin. He had no idea what was coming, but I was carefully watching every move he made, as if I was already 3 steps ahead. Christmas Day arrived, and the kids woke up bright and early, as usual, eager to see what Santa had left them. Jason tried to put on a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. There was a crack in his facade now. He was pretending that everything was fine, that nothing had changed. But deep down, I knew he was panicking. I could see it in the way his hands trembled when he handed me a cup of coffee. I could hear it in his forced laughter when he tried to engage in family conversations. Everything was still too perfect, and that's what worried me. Jason was too comfortable. He thought I was going to let it go, that I would sweep it under the rug like so many other wives who had been betrayed. But I wasn't one of them. I had planned this carefully, and today was just the beginning. I made breakfast for the kids, Jason included. We ate together at the table, and I could see the relief in his eyes. He probably thought that after the confrontation, I would be done, that I would just fall back into the role of the dutiful wife, pretending like nothing happened. But I wasn't going to let him off that easily. As I watched him stuff pancakes into his mouth, looking so carefree, I fought the urge to roll my eyes. He had no idea how much of a puppet he had been, how easily I had controlled the strings. "Everything okay, hun?" he asked, his voice strained. His smile was stiff. I nodded. "Of course, everything's fine." I wanted to laugh in his face, but I didn't. I had to be patient. I had to wait for the right moment. The rest of the day passed in a blur. The kids were thrilled with their gifts, their excitement filling the house with a warmth that seemed to contrast with the chill growing between Jason and me. I could see it in his eyes every time he looked at me, a mixture of guilt, fear, and confusion. He didn't know how to fix this. He didn't know how to make me forgive him, and that was exactly the point. We had agreed to spend Christmas with the kids at home, just the 4 of us, no family gatherings this year. Jason was visibly relieved by this. He thought it was a sign that we were getting back to normal. But I knew better. What he didn't know was that I had already made plans, big plans, and they didn't involve him being happy. That evening, as we sat down for Christmas dinner, I watched him struggle to hold it together. The way he kept checking his phone, the way he kept looking at the door as if waiting for something, or someone. It wasn't hard to figure out what was going on in his head. He was wondering if I knew more than I had said. He was wondering if I was going to confront him again in front of the kids, ruin the night. But I wasn't going to do that. Not yet. I had a much better idea. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of knowing when I was going to strike. I was going to make him sweat, make him feel that nervous tension building up in his gut every time he saw me smile, every time he thought he had me fooled. But the truth was, the only person being fooled was him. The dinner was calm, too calm. Everyone was laughing, enjoying their food, even Jason. But I could feel the undercurrent of tension, the little cracks in his armor. He wasn't fooling me. And as I watched him laugh at something Emily said, I realized just how much I hated the way he could pretend. Just how much I hated that he thought he could simply apologize, buy me flowers, and make everything go back to normal. After dinner, the kids went to bed, and Jason and I were left alone in the living room. The soft glow of the Christmas tree lights cast long shadows on the walls, making the whole house feel too still, too quiet. Jason sat on the couch, running his fingers through his hair, and I could see the exhaustion in his face. He was trying so hard to act like everything was okay, but I wasn't buying it. "Hannah," he said quietly, his voice betraying the tension he was feeling. "We need to talk." I raised an eyebrow, crossing my arms over my chest. "About what?" He hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to begin. "About what happened, about me and Amber." I didn't say anything at first. I just watched him, waiting. His eyes flicked to mine, then back to the floor, and he sighed. "I know you're hurt, but I swear to you it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I don't want to lose you." His words felt hollow, empty. The same words he'd used when he tried to apologize the first time. The words he thought would make everything go away. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I had learned the hard way that words meant nothing. They were just a way to distract you, to cover up the truth. And the truth was, I couldn't trust him anymore. I couldn't trust anything he said. I leaned forward, my gaze sharp. "Jason," I said softly, "you don't get it, do you? It's not just about Amber. It's about everything. The lies, the betrayal. It's about the fact that I woke up one day and realized I didn't know who you were anymore." He looked at me, confusion clouding his eyes. "I told you I'm sorry. I told you I'd do whatever it takes to make this right. But that wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't enough anymore. You think I can just forget this, that I can forget how you've shattered everything we've built, how you've shattered me." His expression softened, and for a moment I almost felt a pang of sympathy. Almost. "I know," he said quietly, his voice cracking. "I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry for that, but I swear it won't happen again. I swear I'll do better." I stood up from the couch, unable to sit still any longer. "You don't get it, Jason. It's too late for apologies. It's too late for you to fix this. You've already done the damage." His face fell, and I could see the realization beginning to dawn on him. But he still didn't get it. He still thought that this was something he could fix with words, with promises, with empty gestures. I turned away from him and walked to the window, my back to him. I could hear his footsteps behind me as he followed me, but I didn't turn around. "What do you want me to say, Jason? That everything's fine? That we're going to go back to the way we were?" I paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "No, I'm done pretending. I'm done being the fool." I turned to face him, my eyes cold. "This Christmas, Jason, you're going to learn what it feels like to lose everything. Because you're going to lose me. You're going to lose everything you thought you could take for granted." The tension in the house was palpable as Christmas Eve descended. The kids were asleep, their faces soft with the innocence of youth, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Jason had gone to bed early, hoping that if he acted normal, everything would go back to the way it was. But I knew better. Tonight was not going to be like any other Christmas Eve. Tonight, I was going to show him exactly what it felt like to lose control. Jason had no idea what I had planned. I had orchestrated everything meticulously, every detail, every moment. The dinner, the decorations, the presents, everything was set up for him to believe that it was just another Christmas, a chance for us to start over. But the truth was, it was the perfect opportunity for me to finally get the justice I deserved. And this time, there would be no pretending, no going back. I stood in front of the mirror, the soft glow of the Christmas lights reflecting off my face. I couldn't help but smile, a smile that was cold and calculating. This was it. Jason thought he was getting the perfect Christmas, the one where we would put everything behind us. He thought he had escaped the consequences of his actions. But tonight, everything would change. I walked into the living room, my heart beating a little faster, but my face carefully composed. Jason was sitting on the couch, looking at his phone, probably texting Amber, trying to act like nothing had changed. He looked up as I entered, his eyes softening when he saw me. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice a little too cheerful. "The kids are asleep, it's just us now." I nodded, walking towards the fireplace where the stockings hung. "Yeah, just wanted to make sure everything was ready for tomorrow." Jason looked relieved. He was trying so hard to keep things normal, trying so hard to pretend that he hadn't shattered my world. But I could see the cracks now. I could see the way he was watching me, waiting for some kind of sign that everything would be okay. And I wasn't going to give him that. "Everything looks great," he said, smiling again, but this time there was a nervous edge to it. I gave him a quick smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. "It's perfect." I had prepared everything for the party, a few close friends, some family. They were all in on it. They knew what was going to happen. They knew Jason was about to have his world flipped upside down. But Jason, he was clueless. And that's exactly how I wanted it. We had always hosted big Christmas parties before, nothing extravagant, just family and close friends. But this year, it was going to be different. I had invited Laura, my best friend, along with Amber's relatives. I knew Jason would be uncomfortable around them, but I wasn't doing it for his comfort. I was doing it to remind him of the life he had betrayed. As the evening wore on, guests started arriving. The house was filled with chatter and laughter, but there was an underlying tension that Jason couldn't put his finger on. He kept glancing at me, trying to figure out what was wrong. But I was a master at hiding my emotions. I had been hiding them for months now, ever since I found out about Amber. "Everything all right?" Jason asked again, his voice edged with worry now. "Everything's perfect," I replied, smiling as I poured myself a glass of wine. I couldn't stop the smirk that tugged at my lips. I had him right where I wanted him. Laura was the first to show up. She walked in with a big hug for me, her eyes scanning the room before settling on Jason. She knew what was about to happen, and she was ready to watch it unfold. We shared a knowing look, and I could feel the excitement building in my chest. Soon after, Amber's cousin, Tasha, arrived. She was loud and animated, instantly making herself the center of attention. Jason greeted her with a smile, but it faltered when she gave him a knowing look. Tasha had heard everything. She was here to witness the unraveling of his life. By the time the room was filled with people, Jason's nerves were clearly showing. He was drinking more than usual, laughing a little too loudly, trying to keep up the act. But the more he tried, the more I saw through him. The more I saw his guilt. He was nervous. He was worried. And for the first time, I was in control. As the night went on, I moved through the crowd, making small talk, laughing, keeping up the appearance of the perfect hostess. But in the back of my mind, I was waiting for the right moment to bring everything crashing down. It was during dessert when I finally saw it. Jason had been chatting with Tasha, but his eyes kept darting toward me, as if waiting for me to make a move. He was starting to feel the pressure, and that's when I knew it was time. I stood up from the table, excusing myself for a moment. Everyone's attention shifted back to the conversation, the laughter continuing, but Jason's gaze followed me as I walked into the kitchen. I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling slightly as I reached for the envelope I had placed earlier in the day. Inside was everything Jason needed to see, the receipts, the photos, the proof of his betrayal. Amber had never thought to hide everything well enough. She didn't think I would find out, but I had. I had tracked everything down, and now it was all here, ready to be exposed. I returned to the living room, my steps steady but my heart racing. I walked past Jason, who stood up from his seat as if to follow me. He looked at me with confusion, but I didn't speak. I simply handed him the envelope. He took it, his hands shaking. "What is this?" he asked, his voice faltering. "You know what it is," I replied coldly. "It's everything you've been hiding from me. It's everything I've known but refused to say until now." Jason's face drained of color as he opened the envelope. His eyes scanned the photos, the receipts, and everything I had gathered. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The room went quiet as everyone watched him. The guests shifted in their seats, their eyes darting between Jason and me. This was the moment I had been waiting for. "Jason," I said, my voice ringing out, "this is what happens when you think you can betray someone and get away with it. This is what happens when you think the people you love will just forgive you and move on. But I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm not going to sit quietly while you tear everything apart." Jason stood there, frozen, his face a mask of shock and horror. His eyes flicked between me and the people in the room, but there was nowhere to hide. He was exposed, his lies hanging in the air like a suffocating fog. The silence stretched on, thick and unbearable, but it was broken by the sound of my voice. "Consider this your Christmas gift," I said, my tone icy. "Merry Christmas, Jason." The silence in the room was deafening. Jason stood frozen, his face pale, the envelope still clutched tightly in his hands. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. His eyes darted around the room, from the faces of the people who had been quietly watching this unfold, to the evidence in his hands. The photos, the receipts, everything I had painstakingly gathered, laid bare before him. For a moment, I thought he might collapse. His breath came in shallow gasps, and I saw his fingers trembling. It was almost like he was trying to make sense of everything that was happening, trying to convince himself that this wasn't real. But it was real. It was all real, and it was happening right in front of him. The guests, some familiar faces, others mere acquaintances, shifted uneasily in their seats. Tasha, Amber's cousin, gave me a look that was part satisfaction, part disbelief. She had been in on this, part of the plan to expose Jason for who he really was. She had known what was coming, and I knew she was relishing every moment of his discomfort. But I didn't care about anyone else's reaction. This wasn't for them. This was for me. This was about taking back my power, my dignity. Jason took a step forward, but his body was stiff, like he was moving through quicksand. His voice finally cracked, barely above a whisper. "Hannah, please, please don't do this." His words were the same ones he had used the night I confronted him. The same words that had done nothing to repair the damage he had caused. His apology meant nothing. His pleas meant nothing. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, but my voice remained steady, unshaken. "Do you think I'm going to forgive you, Jason? Do you think that after everything you've done, that I'm going to just let you slide by, pretending like nothing happened?" His eyes, wide and filled with panic, locked onto mine. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he pleaded, the desperation in his voice growing with each word. "It was just one mistake. One mistake, Hannah. You have to believe me. I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you." I could see the tears welling up in his eyes, but it didn't make a difference. His tears didn't undo the betrayal. His apologies didn't change the fact that he had betrayed my trust, my love. The life we had built was built on lies, and now it was falling apart in front of both of us. "No," I said, my voice cold, the finality of my words slicing through the tension. "You didn't make one mistake, Jason. You've been lying to me for months. You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? You thought I wouldn't find out, that I'd just keep turning a blind eye, but I'm not stupid, and I'm not weak." He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. "Stop, just stop talking. You don't get to fix this with your words, not anymore." Jason's face fell, and I could see the realization hitting him. It was too late. I had made up my mind. The truth was out, and there was no going back. But even now, as the chaos of our lives began to unravel, I saw him trying to salvage what was left. He tried to explain, to beg, but I couldn't listen anymore. It was like everything he said just bounced off me, every word hollow, empty. I stepped forward, my eyes never leaving his. The room felt colder now, as if the air itself had turned to ice. The guests remained silent, unsure of what to do, but I could feel their eyes on us, waiting for the next move. It was like they were watching a car crash in slow motion, unable to look away. "You never thought about what I wanted, did you?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "You never thought about the fact that I trusted you, that I believed in us. We built this life, Jason. I supported you through everything. And you destroyed it all for some woman you barely even knew." His lips parted as if he wanted to defend himself, but no words came out. His guilt was written all over his face. He knew he couldn't justify his actions. He knew there was nothing he could say that would undo the damage, but it didn't stop him from trying. "I was selfish," he admitted, his voice barely audible. "I made a huge mistake, and I've been trying to figure out how to make it right. I thought if I could just fix it, if I could just get us back to how it was, you'd forgive me. But I see now that I've lost you." He looked defeated, like a man who had finally realized he was out of options, and I could see the despair in his eyes. But it didn't move me. It didn't make me feel sorry for him, because I knew that he was only sorry now because he was losing everything. He wasn't sorry for what he did to me. He was sorry for himself. I shook my head slowly, taking a step back. "You've lost more than me, Jason. You've lost the life you thought you could take for granted, and now you'll live with the consequences of your actions." I turned away, my heart heavy with the weight of what was happening, but at the same time, there was a strange sense of relief. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I had planned, the moment I could finally let go of the pain and the hurt. "I've given you all the chances you'll ever get," I said softly, turning back to face him one last time. "But not anymore. This is over, and I'm done." Jason's face crumbled as the truth of my words sank in. He didn't speak, didn't beg anymore. He just stood there, broken, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. This was my redemption. This was my power. I had been the one who had suffered. I had been the one who had been betrayed. But now I was the one who was in control, and I was walking away. I turned to face the door, but before I stepped out, I glanced back at him, my heart heavy but resolute. "Merry Christmas, Jason. I hope you enjoy your gift." And then I walked away. The room was still, the only sound the distant hum of conversation from the guests who had been holding their breath, waiting for something, anything to happen. But nothing else did. Jason was left standing there, holding the broken pieces of our life in his hands, while I walked out of the door to start mine again. The air was thick with silence. The weight of my words had fallen heavily in the room, and Jason's face was still a portrait of shock and disbelief. But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I wasn't concerned with his regret, his remorse, or his pain. No, I had moved on from that. I had moved on from him. As I walked out of the living room, I could hear his faint voice calling my name, but I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say, no more tears to shed, no more explanations to offer. I had given him every opportunity to come clean, to make things right, but he had chosen the other woman. And now he would have to live with that choice. The guests were still milling about in the other room, unsure of what to do or say. I could hear their murmurs, their whispers, but none of it mattered to me. I had already made my decision. The plans I had set in motion were already underway. There was no going back now. I stood in the hallway for a moment, my breath steadying as I tried to collect my thoughts. The house felt like it had grown cold, even though the fire was still burning in the living room. My heart was pounding, but there was a sense of calm, of finality, that washed over me. This was it. Jason had no idea how far I had gone to make him understand the gravity of his betrayal. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the secrecy, the years of manipulation and deceit. He had thought he could get away with it, but now the truth was staring him in the face. His world had been ripped apart, and he was left standing there, holding the pieces. As I walked back to the kitchen to check on the food, I felt a sense of satisfaction that I hadn't expected. It wasn't relief, exactly, but a quiet confidence that I had done what needed to be done. I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. I wasn't going to be the one who cried herself to sleep at night, wondering what had gone wrong. No, I was the one who had taken control, and now Jason would be the one who would have to live with the consequences. The door to the kitchen creaked open, and I turned to see Jason standing in the doorway, his eyes red, his face pale. He had clearly been crying. His hands were shaking, and he looked like a man who had been completely shattered. "Hannah," he said, his voice cracking, "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear I never meant to hurt you." I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at him, taking in his brokenness. For the first time, I could see the full extent of the damage he had done, not just to me, but to himself. The man who had once been so confident, so sure of his place in our world, was now a shadow of his former self. "You've hurt me more than you can imagine, Jason," I said quietly, my voice steady. "You've shattered everything, but you don't get to fix this with apologies. You don't get to fix this by showing up at the last minute with tears and regret. You had your chance, and you blew it." Jason stepped forward, reaching out as if to grab my arm, but I pulled away, stepping back, putting distance between us. I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of the guilt he was trying to pour on me now. His remorse meant nothing. It was too late. "I've been working on myself," he said, desperation in his voice. "I've been seeing a counselor. I've been trying to change, Hannah. You have to believe me." I shook my head, my heart hardening. "You can't change overnight, Jason. You can't expect me to believe that everything's fine now. You've spent months lying to me, and now you expect me to just forget it." "I know I can't fix everything right now," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I want to. I want to make it right. I love you, Hannah. Please just give me a chance." His words, once so powerful, now felt like hollow pleas. His love had never been enough to keep him faithful. His promises had always been broken. And now, his desperation only made him seem weaker in my eyes. "No," I said firmly, turning away from him. "I'm done." He stood there, silent for a long moment, as if waiting for me to change my mind, as if hoping I would throw him a lifeline. But I wasn't going to. Not anymore. I had been the one to fight for us. I had been the one to hold everything together. But now I was walking away, and there was no turning back. As I walked to the front door, my thoughts began to race. Jason had no idea what was coming next. I had set the wheels in motion, and now he would finally face the consequences of his actions. I wasn't going to punish him out of spite. I wasn't going to make him suffer for my own satisfaction. No, this was about something much bigger than that. This was about me reclaiming my life, my power, and my dignity. I was done being the one who was hurt, the one who was betrayed. It was time for him to understand what it felt like to lose everything. The door creaked open, and I stepped out into the cold night air. The chill wrapped around me, but I welcomed it. I had walked through fire, and now I was free. A few hours later, Jason was still sitting in the living room, the same envelope still in his hands. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, as if the weight of what he had done was too much to bear. But he would have to bear it. This was his reality now. I had arranged for the divorce papers to be served the very next morning. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my own life, about showing him that I wouldn't be his doormat anymore. But there was one last thing I had planned. One last move that would make him understand just how much he had taken for granted. In the morning, he would wake up to find the house emptied of all my things. All the memories we had created together, gone. The kids were already with my sister for the weekend. And when Jason looked at the empty house, he would finally understand what it felt like to be left behind. The final chapter had been written. Jason's world had fallen apart, and now he would have to rebuild it without me. But as for me, I was free. I was free to start over, to reclaim my life and my happiness. And no matter how hard he tried, Jason would never get back the woman he had taken for granted. He would never get me back. As the dust settles and the final truths are revealed, one question remains. Does revenge bring closure, or does it leave you empty in the end? Jason's world is shattered, but for Hannah, it's just the beginning of something new. She's no longer the victim. She's the one in control, reclaiming her life and her dignity. But was it worth it? If you were in her shoes, would you have done the same? What do you think Jason deserves? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to catch the next chapter of this incredible story. The twists aren't over yet. Stay tuned.